All right, Rob. Here we're gonna be watching your freestyle. Okay. So we're gonna play you in small slow mo. I actually send you off. Nice position on your dive on your start. Head down, a little bit leaning forward, and that's a good momentum that you get on your flight. Maybe you could work on a little tighter streamline, but overall you have a pretty good dive, right? And your legs follow. Not so much splash right there, right? Now the thing about your streamline, it's actually pretty good. For some reason you're carrying a lot of turbulence. And now on your breakout, you're definitely a little maybe too quick to begin your stroke. You're a bit too deep. And the other thing is that you're looking up. If we draw a plane on your face, it will be putting a lot of resistance, right? As opposed to keep your face basically parallel to your arm and flat. Keep it down. Don't look up for the water, right? Because then you're putting a lot of resistance. You're breaking yourself, or you're breaking your speed, stopping your momentum on your breakout, right? So think about that when you're coming off the dive. Keep your head down. Try to time your breakout a little better, right? What we can see clearly here, Rob, is okay. So when you're beginning your stroke, you basically go into dropping your hand all the way to this height, right? You got the surface of the water here, and all that distance you're not really taking advantage of. You're supposed to reach with your arms because you're finishing your stroke, right? Right here you can see your hand is finishing the pull. So this arm ideally wants to stay there, right? But you drop it, right? You're recovering your stroke, and in order to glide, I know that you're doing it on maybe a faster tempo type of freestyle here because it's kind of a race mode, but still, when you're doing open water, when you're doing long sets, you definitely want to work on gliding because let's see, you see your arm is right here, and you still have your other arm finishing the pull. It's at the hips level. Your hand is at the hips level, and if I move forward, if we move forward your video, you can see you're not really gliding on your freestyle. And the glide is actually important in all four strokes. Just like it is in breaststroke, it is in freestyle. You want to cut the water with that arm up close to your head. And then once you start recovering, then you can begin your next pull stroke or your next pull cycle or stroke cycle by bending your elbow kind of like this. Maybe that's a little exaggerating, but let's say that you drop your catch. Definitely you want to have your fingertips pointing down, but you have to look for a high elbow stroke, right? The high elbow stroke is not necessarily outside of the water. It also means a high elbow stroke inside the water or underwater when you're about to begin your pull, right? That's something that we need to focus on. You're not really bending your elbow until it's below your shoulder line, right here. That's the first time that I see you bending your elbow, right? Same on the other arm, right? You see your arm is here finishing the pull, and this one is dropping less than the other one. Right here is the surface of the water. Ideally, we want to keep it out. Now, that's with regards of your pulling. Your head position, I constantly see it looking up. Your goggles, always looking, or then you're breathing, and then once again your head, you're looking up before you breathe. You pretty much can see how. Let's draw a line here again. So we got the surface of the water, and this is your head to hips, basically your body position. Uh, you ideally want to stay on a flat horizontal position, right? Want to look for having your head here, even when you're breathing, and your hips on the same plane, on the same line, okay? So body position, catch, work on the high elbow, right? Once again, you're bringing your whole head pretty much outside of the water. That is just basically, like I draw that line here before. If you look at all the water that you're putting resistance to, right? All this is water resistant, or you're presenting resistance to the water by lifting so much your head. Take a breath, all right? Now your turn is actually pretty good. If we go back a little bit, I like how you're approaching the wall with your your both hands down, and you're tucking your chin into your chest. A pretty quick turn. You're almost landing on your side, which is ideal, and then you're streaming line pretty well. There's hardly any, actually a very tiny dolphin kick, and this breakout was a little better, but still I consider this a little too soon maybe, because you can see here this is where you want to be on the surface already at this when you're finishing that pull, right? Or at least you're breaking the surface. You're not breaking it until you're actually breaking the surface with your elbow, right? So think about that. Maybe just on this occasion you did it like that, who knows, but think about if you did it here, you probably do it more often, right? So you definitely want to break the surface with your head. Keep it down. Once again, your goggles should be looking down. Um, right? And once again, here, what you want to do is basically begin dropping your elbow, or I'm sorry, dropping your hand to begin the catch, and then you can pull on a nice straight line, as opposed to dropping, and then bending elbow at the shoulder line, right? So you're just putting a lot more stress on your shoulder, and on long distances that you like to swim, that's gonna pay. You're gonna end up paying off fatigue and lack of efficiency, right? So now we can see how your head completely leaves the water when you're breathing. Think about working on closing the gap. Let's say this is your head right here. This is your shoulder and your arm. There's a big gap that you need to close it when you're breathing, and when you're not breathing, obviously, right? Your head is leaving the water completely and then coming back. Now this is a good body position, and now what you can see is it goes like this. It goes from here to here, constantly in your freestyle. We want to keep it always flat, right? Just rotating towards your around your long axe, which is from your head to your toes, fingers to toes, right? Same thing. You're dropping your hand a little too quick without giving you that much gliding. Once again, the gap is there, so there's water pushing you the other way, and want to look up maybe dropping the elbow. It's just a more efficient freestyle, right? Like a lot of sprinters will do this kind of stroke, but they can only swim 50 meters, maybe 100. Other freestylers, they just have a more shoulder-driven, um, hips-driven stroke with a high elbow pull, right? It's just a more efficient freestyle. You see? And even when you're not breathing, for some reason, oh no, yeah, you were breathing there. Sorry. So you kind of like breathe every three sometimes. That's good. But yeah, keep working on that head a little lower when you're breathing, Rob. You don't need to take a whole head out of the water to breathe. Work on closing that gap between head and shoulder. Work on your high elbow pull. You have a nice high elbow recovery. So now you work on your high elbow pull. And well, there's a lot we can do for that constant kick, right? And we're gonna watch you one more time. This time on full speed. So yeah, your kick is not quite constant. You have more like a alternating kick, or like they call it a lot of times scissor kick. So working maybe constant kick, that's tough. I know it's tough when, especially when you're swimming long distances or long sets. But it's something you can also think about. So Rob, in general, you want to address your freestyle on three main things. Your head position is too high when you're swimming. It's like it goes in a cycle. It goes down to high, down and up, down and up. So you want to keep it always down. Your catch is not taking is you're not basically catching at the right time, right? You want to make sure that you're catching a lot earlier water instead of dropping your straight arm, because that's not really catching water. You gotta bend your elbow quicker to keep it high and catching more water, so you have a more efficient stroke, right? And when you're gliding, make sure that you're closing that gap between head and shoulder. Right? So there's lots of things that we can think about to make your freestyle more efficient, Rob. All right? All right, Rob. So lots to think about, man. Good job.